How's it going, Wisconsin? Welcome to the very first edition of Dairyland Talk. Me, myself, TJ Bain, at Top Rated Sports on Twitter. Both of us are contributors for the Dairyland Express. We will be bringing you weekly coverage on the Milwaukee Bucks, report cards, superlatives. We're going to have a lot of good content for you this season on every Tuesday. So I want to introduce my co-host, TJ. TJ, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, guys? How's everybody doing?
I think they're doing good. I think that we have a lot to get started with. I know we're a couple weeks into the season already, but the 8-1 Bucks, a complete turnaround from last season, especially how they started out. And I think that the most impressive thing I've seen is that the Bucks have went into games where they're supposed to win, and they've actually taken care of business, and they've done it in pretty big fashion, winning quite a few of their games by 20 points so far this season. TJ, what do you think is the biggest thing that's different from the beginning, from 9 games in last year to 9 games in this year?
I think it's the three-point shooting. The three-point shooting has improved a lot since last season. The new staff put in place that has really helped the Bucks out a lot this year.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you look instantly at what this offense has done, and I wrote about it on Dairyland Express that the Bucks just the offense would work itself in. I mean, the Bucks right now are number one in 3 points made and 3 points attempted. They are 22nd and 27th in 2 points attempts. So let's think about how far we've come from Jason Kidd's no three, too friendly offense that we were accustomed to seeing the past, what was it, 3 seasons. And now it's completely different. I think that just like seeing the Bucks do this, it's kind of crazy because of how it was like the dinosaur ages last season, and we really just have seen an evolution that I think Bucks fans are getting accustomed to, and I think the players are getting accustomed to as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have all the players in place on this roster to really make a push. They have an excellent signing this offseason with Brooke Lopez, who has really, really helped them out in the center position, which they haven't had in many seasons, especially with Jason Kidd.
You're right. And I think that having those stretch 4s and 5s are huge for the bigger grand scheme of what Mike Budenholzer is trying to implement. And, he's only in his first year, and there's going to be new notches to the offense that he can bring in years 2 and 3, and hopefully have some continuity amongst the players, obviously with, the huge off season the Bucks have upcoming, where the three best guards are all due for contracts, so they'll have to make those adjustments when they need to. But as of right now, everyone seems to be filling their lanes, and even the Bucks should really be 9-0. They, it took a 24, 25 point 3-point franchise record night for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, they broke their
to
own
beat us.
It's crazy.
No, it is, and if you think about it, but you're going to learn a lot about this team coming up here in this 4-game stretch. Portland, Golden State, Clippers, and the Nuggets. All 4 of those teams are playoff caliber teams out west. And I think the Bucks, they've only had 3 road games so far this season. So 4 in what looks like 6 nights. It's not going to be an easy stretch.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough week. We're gonna learn a lot about the Bucks, after these games, especially the one on Thursday against Golden State. We're really gonna see how they match up to the champions.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, being 8-1, with the possibility if you take care of business in Portland, which I believe the Bucks are a better team than Portland, but that's another one of those games where it's sort of at last year last year we're losing those games where, okay, we're probably better than the team, but we just don't show up for some reason. And that's still a possibility. But what I've liked most about the Bucks, honestly, is I've seen 9 straight games where they've showed up every single time. And I think the one, they're playing for the coach. I think they know they have a superstar in Giannis. And 3, I think that they know that the East is wide open. Boston's good, but they're not as good as everyone's making them out to be. They're not going to run away with this thing. We took care of Toronto. I mean, Kawhi Leonard wasn't there, obviously, but neither was Giannis. So that you have to feel good about that. And I know they had like OG Anunoby was out and a couple other guys, but you got to think about, who we've played so far and what we've done to some of these teams.
Yeah, we've played a lot of playoff teams to start the season. The Pacers, the Sixers, the Timberwolves, the Raptors, the Celtics. I mean, and we've won all of them except for the Celtics. So it just shows you how well the new system is really meshing with these players and how well Giannis is playing. I mean, he's at a MVP level that only a certain amount of players in NBA history have ever been able to do.
No, you're right. 26 and 13.9 rebounds as of Monday night when we're recording this, almost 6 assists. What Giannis Antetokounmpo is doing is unprecedented in the NBA. Just to put up these numbers, and the scary thing is Giannis hasn't even played well yet. I mean, I think he played pretty well yesterday, obviously, with another triple-double. I think it's his 11th career triple-double, but he really hasn't played that well yet. He hasn't really been knocking down any of his shots. He's just been getting to the rim at a freakish rate, and you're starting to see the dividends with this Mike Budenholzer offense because those low-post guys are having to make a decision. And the Bucks shot 55 threes yesterday, and they stay in on Giannis, and you hit enough threes, you're going to space them out, and Giannis will get even easier shots. And that's really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, they realized what Giannis's biggest weakness was the 3-point shooting, and they added players that could shoot the three. With Brook Lopez is a perfect example. You got a center that can just back out, drive in, and he could dish it out to the big guy. And it's just so hard for teams to play the Bucks with so many dynamics that they have.
No, and I think that's definitely one of the biggest reasons why they're so successful is they have all these different assets and all these different spots that have been ready to go at a moment's notice. I mean, he's not putting up the biggest numbers, but Dante DiVincenzo this year has been playing fantastic minutes for the Bucks. He's been plug and play. He can go out there. He's defending Kyrie Irving against the Celtics. I mean, this dude can seriously ball. And then we talk about, Pat Connaughton. Pat Connaughton's come in, hit some big threes, played some good defense. I mean, Sterling Brown was playing in the G League the other night. I mean, there is seriously been some dividing of cream to the top on whose Budenholzer's guys are. And I think we can't even limit that because Tony Snell's been playing pretty well too the last couple of days. So, I mean, I think that shooting guard position is what we were looking for in the beginning of the season about who is going to be those 2 or 3 guys that are going to come off the bench and be able to fit. But, it looks like the Bucks are going to have their options on what matchup fits better on a nice nightly basis.
Yeah, it has to be nice, especially for the coaching to be able to switch it out, go big lineup, go small. You could put Giannis at the small forward, power forward, even put him at the center if you wanted to with his size and ability to get to the rim. I mean, and then you got Eric Bledsoe who's starting to play how he used to play when he was with the Phoenix Suns. And it's just so good to see a team mesh, and it's not even December yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a fantastic start for the Milwaukee Bucks, the 8-1 Milwaukee Bucks. I think that we really need to look at how this defense is playing because obviously offense is the most attractive thing to talk about, who's scoring, who's passing well and all that. But the Bucks have been absolutely phenomenal defensively. They're actually rated number 1 in the NBA in effective field goal percentage. So, I mean, that right there tells you enough how good this team is playing defensively. And they're real, and I know Jason Kidd was scrutinized for his defense, but he kind of had the right idea. The Bucks are super long, but he just didn't know how to use it in the right way. Budenholzer's using that length now. I mean, teams are shooting they're shooting 4th amount of 2-point shots against the Bucks. So, I mean, they're letting them shoot that mid-range 2 that, doesn't add up when you should be shooting 3s. And when the Bucks ended up actually losing to the Celtics, you just look at what happened there. The math wasn't right. We were shooting all these 2s and they were hitting all these 3s, and we lost by the difference.
Yeah, I mean, defense is going to be key, especially late in the season, especially against, teams like the Celtics, teams like the Sixers, and the Bucks have really found a way to use centers like John Henson, for example, able to limit his minutes to where he's more effective. I mean, he's averaging a block already, and he's only playing about 15 minutes a game. So it's nice to see how they can use players even for a small amount of time and get the most out of them.
Who do you think has been the biggest surprise so far this season?
Oh, hands down, Brook Lopez. I feel like Brook Lopez is the quiet, most underrated signing this offseason. He's turned his whole career around. I mean, he was an afterthought. And for him to take such a pay cut to come to the Bucks to give them something that they needed, and that is a true center that can shoot, that can shoot the free throw as well. I mean, you could put Brook Lopez on the line, and that he's going to hit the free throws, and that's hard to say for a big man in this league.
No, I completely agree with you. Brook Lopez has been absolutely phenomenal so far this season. On the other hand, I'm going to go to the other free agent signing, and it's Ersan Ilyasova for me, averaging 9.9 points, 6.3 rebounds, 1.4 assists on 52% shooting and 39% from deep, 82% from the field, with 16.7 player efficiency rating. I mean, Ersan Ilyasova has absolutely done it all for the Bucks. He led the team in scoring when Giannis was out with a concussion. He had 19 and 10. He comes off the bench. He does absolutely whatever you need him to do on any given night. And that is part of the reason why Mike Budenholzer brought him here from Atlanta, where he was last season. And I think the best part about Ersan is that it doesn't matter to him whether he's starting or coming off the bench, or he doesn't play a lot one game. He's always ready to play. And I think that's why all Bucks fans have really enjoyed him since he's been here, ever since he got drafted by the team. And, Ersan's just a huge step up from the bench that we had last year, because the bench that we had last year just wasn't doing it at all. They would come in and there would get no offensive action. There would be no scoring, no ball movement. Ersan forces that with how hard he works and how quick he is when he moves the ball offensively. And when he gets an open three, he's not just going to sit and wait for the next ball rotation. He's going to step up and make that big shot.
Yeah, that's so true. And he's like a type of player that him and Tony Snell, you can ask them to start, or you can ask them to come off the bench, and you'll get the same attitude and the same production. And those are the type of players that you need on a championship team, especially a young team like this. I mean, Giannis been in the playoffs a few times, but hasn't gone deep in the playoffs. So this is good for the Bucks. This is good for the city of Milwaukee, and this is going to be a team to watch out for in the East.
I want to get your reaction to the options being picked up for Thon Maker and DJ Wilson for next season. I know the Thon Maker one was kind of expected, but DJ Wilson was up in the air, and they ended up signing him for next season, like a $3 million guarantee. What are your thoughts on that? And can you try to put us in what the Bucks management might be thinking about with the DJ Wilson pickup?
Well, I mean, DJ Wilson is an offensive-minded forward. I mean, he can play the power forward position. He can play the center. He's 22 years old. I mean, he can't really hit the three, but his rebounding is what I think the Bucks management was really looking at, was having a young guy, cheap, who can play defense and can rebound. The Bucks have scoring now. They rebounding and defense to come on, especially with all these free agents that are going, that the Bucks are going to have to decide on who they're going to sign next season. So,
and that's where I find the biggest problem with having that sign, picking up DJ Wilson's option, because you're going to need that $3 million to bring in whoever those guys are going to get. Chris Middleton is going to get $30 million a year. No question about it. He will be a highest paid player on this team after this offseason. And honestly, picking up DJ Wilson, who I question his lower body strength, he just at 6'10", he's just not physical enough to be a center or be a power forward, and he's not good enough shooter to be a power forward. I mean, we're talking about a guy that played in 22 games last season as a rookie, averaging 3.2 minutes per game. I struggle to see where he has a role on this team as well, with so many other big guys on this roster. I mean, I know Brook Lopez, his contract is going to be up, and we might use some of that mid-level exception on him next year. You have Ersan for next year now, his $7 million guarantee. You have, Giannis, Ersan, Thon probably. I mean, Christian Wood, all ahead of DJ Wilson. So I don't see where they carve out any place for him on this team next year. I mean, I think that they would have been smart to get like a top 55 protected pick for him, because he shouldn't have been their pick at 17 in the first place. So you got to cut your losses with that. But I don't know. It might be John Horst trying to say, all right, well, this is my second first round pick, so I need to make sure I hit on one of these to keep my credibility up. So I'm like, well, you might as well just keep Don and let DJ go, because DJ is nothing. I don't think he's very good. I think that he's not going to be an NBA player for much longer, unfortunately, like most of the Bucks first round picks.
Well, yeah, I mean, you never know. You could sign him. You could sign him, have him play this in the off season, see how he progresses, and if he doesn't, he's on a really cheap contract. I think they're more or less trying to see, kind of just hold on hope and signing him to a pretty cheap contract to hope that he would become something. But if he doesn't, like you said, I mean, he won't be in the NBA much longer anyhow. So,
right. So let's look at this week ahead for the Milwaukee Bucks, a 4-game West road trip that starts on Tuesday night at 9:00 Central Time against the Trailblazers. And then, as TJ had mentioned before, on Thursday night, they go to Golden State. That'll be a 9:30 Central Time tip against the defending champion Warriors. Then a Saturday matinee at 2:30 against the Clippers. And then finally Sunday, November 11th at 7 p.m. Against the Denver Nuggets. So honestly, I don't think the Clippers are that great. I think they're pretty good and could give the Bucks some problems. But I think you're going to learn a lot from that Portland, Golden State, and Denver game. Those are 3 very, very good teams.
Yeah, Damian Lillard is playing at another level right now. He's playing the best ball of his career. Portland, is just, they're a playoff team, and they're out to prove it this year. So that's going to be a tough matchup. Of course, with the Warriors on Thursday. I mean, they're just champions. So, I mean, Clay just dropped 50 with 26 minutes. So, I mean, it's ridiculous what they're doing over there. And Denver is one of the, reminds me a lot of like I would say the Celtics in a way. They have a lot of good pieces in place, a lot of young pieces in place, and the Nuggets are right there, ready to make that push. So it's going to be a tough week, a tough 4 games for the Bucks, but we'll see a lot about this team after this week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're definitely circling the Warriors game. It's a TNT game. I believe it's the second TNT game for the Bucks in as many weeks. So good exposure for the team, obviously on national TV. But I'm definitely circling that Denver game as a big one for the Bucks. It's a Sunday night game in Denver. Sometimes someone call those a sleeper game because everyone's tired on Sunday, don't really want to watch it, don't really want to be there, the altitude. But Denver's 8-1. They're second in the Western Conference, and they really can do it in a lot of different ways. Gary Harris, Jokic, Will Barton, Jamal Murray, Paul Millsap. I mean, they have 5 serious scorers up front, and you got to be ready to play defense against them. And it's 2 high-powered offenses going at it. But they do it a little bit differently. The Nuggets are 28th in the NBA, or 28th in 3 points made and 23rd in 3 points attempted. So I think they might be falling right into the Bucks' hands with these mid-range shots. So we got to hope that the Bucks are hitting those threes. Unlike in shooting those threes, I mean, because we saw what happened when they didn't shoot them against a good team, against the Celtics, and they ended up losing. So keep definitely getting those shots up, fill in those blue boxes, that Budenholzer loves, and I think that we should be in good shape. I think that if we're getting into predictions for this week, I suppose I'd say they probably go 3-1. I think they, if they beat the Warriors, they'll lose to another team. If they beat the other 3 teams, they'll probably lose to the Warriors. I mean, I'm not concerned if they lose to the Warriors because we're fighting small battles right now early in the season, obviously. But, we gotta be competitive at least.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, that Denver game is going to be it's going to be a lot harder for the Bucks than first when you first look at it, especially when they're leaving. They have to travel from LA all the way to Denver the next day. So they're playing back-to-back games, and they have to travel across and play playoff team. I mean, the Clippers are not a playoff team, but if you put the Clippers on the East, they could be a playoff team. So no team in the West is ever easy. So the Bucks will have a very tough week this week.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, it froze. Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It froze for some reason. Can you re-say that Denver part? Especially the Denver game, and then I couldn't hear you after that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So especially, ready?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Especially after the Denver game. The Denver game is going to be very, very tricky because they have to travel from LA, basically midway across the country to Denver and play the Nuggets. Not a playoff team, but if you put the Clippers on the East, they're a playoff team. Any team on the West is going to be a tough matchup on any given night. So it's going to be a tough week for the Bucks.
What would you give if you had to predict what those games are going to end up like?
I'm gonna go with you on the 3-1. I think they'll lose to the Warriors, and I think they'll beat the Trailblazers to beat the Clippers, and I think the Nuggets game will be a battle.
Yeah, I mean, 2-2 is not the worst thing in the world, but I think you got to aim to go 3-1 during this stretch. I mean, get out to as big as of a lead as you can in that Eastern Conference. I know Toronto's ahead because they played more games, but I mean, if you can separate yourself as a top 2 or 3 team early in the season, you're only going to benefit from that. I mean, 50-55 wins definitely isn't out of the question for this team anymore. But I think that, taking care of business on this road trip is extremely important for the Bucks as they move forward with this whole thing that they're going to be going on this season. And I think that there's going to be learning curve for the Bucks at some point. I think the ceiling's going to fall at one game. They're going to hit 9 of 53s, and people are going to freak out about the system not working, but it will. it's just you don't want to have it. The only problem with this thing is you don't want to end up like the Houston Rockets at Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals and miss 20-something threes in a row, because that could I mean, because that could very well happen in the type of offense that the Bucks run, very similarly to the Houston Rockets. You could have a streak like that, but you just can't have it on a huge game.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's really going to come down to Giannis and to be the guy. When it comes down to any close games, the team is going to look for him, and they're going to look for him to hit the three or hit the shot, hit the game winner. Him and Chris Middleton are going to be the guys that are going to carry the Bucks to that next level. And I honestly think Giannis is at least a top 3 player in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair assessment. The way Kustakufis would probably say the same thing after the dunking he got put on him in Sunday's game. But I think that's fair. He's probably a top 3 or 4 player, or maybe 5. I'm not arguing that much about that, because I think they're all kind of, it's pretty subjective. I think I think LeBron and KD are the best players in the world, and I think after that it's kind of like pick your flavor. Giannis, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, that whole thing. Like, yeah. I think it's pretty subjective. I think everyone's gonna have their guy that they'll ride with. I personally think it's James Harden. I think Giannis has definitely elevated himself from like 6 or 7 to like 3 or 4 conversations. So that's good. But I think that we just need to see more like winning. I've seen the Rockets go to the Western Conference Finals and be 1 game away from beating the Warriors and go cold. I mean, they're a good team. I think that Harden elevates them, obviously. So you just need to see the same thing from Giannis, and I think you'll be in pretty good shape. But yeah, I think we've covered it for this week. I want to thank all of our listeners in week 1. Still working through some kinks, obviously, with the formatting and all that stuff. If there's any special, superlatives or anything you'd like to hear, you can drop them in both of our Twitter mentions. TJ is on Twitter at Top Rated Sports. I am at DP_hoops. And we want to thank you again for listening to Dairyland Talk. TJ?
Yep, thanks. See you next week.
See you next week, dude. Thanks for having a really good first episode. So excited about this. So we're excited to keep giving you great Bucks content. So we'll talk to you later, and thank you, Wisconsin.